Hi, hello, welcome. So in this video, we'll see first non-repeating integer in an array problem. So first, let's understand what is the problem statement is. So there will be given an array of integers. So we need to find the first integer array, which is unique. Unique in the sense, so we need to find non-repeating integer, and that should be an first occurrence. And we are trying to implement this in a Java. So let's understand with the sample input. So there is a given an array. So which the element consists of 9, 2, 3, 2, 6. Here there are two unique numbers, the 9 and 3. So this is a first occurred unique number and this is a second occurred unique number. So that's the reason we need to give output as 9. Even though this is a unique number, so we are not returning this. Other than that, 2 is already occurred twice and 6 is also occurred twice. So that's the reason 6 and 2 are not the unique numbers. So the sample output should be 9. So let's implement the code. Whenever we try to implement, so we always think of implementing the brute force solution. So the brute force solution is we need to compare each element with each other element in an array. So meaning the 9 should compare with all other element to find whether the 9 is unique or it's already have an occurrence within this array. And then the 2 should again compare with all other elements to figure out is there any duplicate. And then the third, and then the next element, and then the next element, and then the next element. So this is the way the each element need to compare with all other elements within the same array. So this will be an brute force solution. So let's understand the code, and then probably we'll get through this logic. So we have an input array, and we need to return an int. This is like the first occurrence of unique number, and this is an basic condition. So if the array is an 0 or if it is null, so then we'll return the -1, meaning we don't find any element or we don't find any first unique number. And then we are using the outer loop and the inner loop. So the outer loop for it will iterate for each element, and this the inner loop for this each element it will iterate for all the other element. So that's the reason we are using two loops. And in this condition, actually, we wanted to ignore the same index, meaning the same element should not be compared and it should not be treated as it's repeated. So that's the reason. So here in the second condition, we are comparing the each element, which is the element need to be compared with other element, is comparing with other elements. And if it is equal, and we are marking this boolean as a true, and we are breaking this the inner loop. And in this condition, if it is not repeated, meaning if it is a unique, if any element within this outer loop, if it is compared with all other element in this inner loop, and even after comparing with all other elements, if it is not repeated, meaning this boolean is not turned to true, then this is an unique element. So that's the reason we are outputting here whatever the element we have found, we are outputting that as an unique number or the first occurrence, because we are iterating from the zeroth index, meaning from the first element we are iterating till the last element. So whatever the first occurred, a non-repeated element will be the output which we wanted. That's the reason we'll be returning here. And we are marking this is repeated as false, because in the next occurrences, if there are if there are none repeated, so it should report it. That's the reason again we are marking this as a false. Yeah, in next, actually, when we compare the each element with all other element, even though if it is not exist, like even though if all the element is compared with all the elements in this loop, even though we don't find this unique number, in the last we are returning the -1, meaning we didn't find any unique number within this array which is inputted. So that's the reason we are giving is -1 at the last. Now let's walk through the one of the array, then probably we'll understand better. Let's say 9. This is array, we have taken it for input. The outer point will be this, so let's call it as a O. This is an outer loop, and even the inner loop will also initially it will point to this the first element itself. So this condition will be not satisfied. So that's the reason the I will be moved to next element. This is an I. And 9 and 2, it's not same. So that's the reason it will move to next element, I. And again 9 and 3 will be compared. And again this is not equals. So again the I will be moved to a next element. And again I is not equals to 9 is not equals to 2. That's the reason again it will be moved. The inner loop will be moved. And here again 9 and 6 is compared. So 9 and 6 are also not equal. So again the I is incremented. 9 and 6 is compared, and 9 and 6 is also not repeated, meaning not equivalent or not duplicate. So the inner loop exhausted all its element, or it looked at all the element, but it's none of the first, whatever the outer loop which is pointing, it didn't find any duplicates other than the first element. So that's the reason. So we are returning over here as a 9 as an output, and this code will be shared in a description. Please check out. Now, if you wanted to understand time complexity, the time complexity of this solution is big O of n square, because each element need to be compared with every element of array, and the space complexity will be constant. So we are not using any extra space. So is there any better solution than this time complexity big O of n square? Yes, there is an better solution than this. We'll discuss that in a moment. Okay, in approach 2, so we'll use any key value store, or HashMap will be used to track number of occurrences of each element. So then we'll be seeing what is a first element which is having only one occurrence, and we'll be returning the sample output. Let's see with this an example. So we'll iterate over an array, and we'll maintain an key value pair. Key will be the value of array, and the value will be the number of occurrence. In the first case, it will be an one occurrence, and it will move to a second element, and it will create new key and an occurrence. And when it move to a third element, so it will create a new key and an occurrence. And when it move to a next element, it's already visited, I mean it's already key is already created, so that's the reason it will increment the occurrence, which is 1 plus 1 equals to 2. Now it will move to a new array element, that is 6. It will create a new key, and then occurrence is 1, and then it will move to a next element. The key is already there, so that's the reason it will increment an occurrence, which will be an 2. Now in next iteration, so we'll go through each and every element, and we'll fetch the value of HashMap. If it is an 1, then we'll be returning the output immediately. So in our case, this is an best case actually. So whenever we see the first element, which is 9, and when we fetch the HashMap value for the 9 key, that will be an 1. So meaning this is an unique number. So that's the reason immediately we'll return the output. So if that is not the case, we'll go through each and every element, and whenever it returns an unique number, in our case the 3 is also an unique number. If you see here the key value, so here we'll be returning the output. If the 9 is also a duplicate, then in this case the third element will be returning the output. So let's understand the code now. Okay, let's understand this code. So this is an basic code, as already discussed. So if it is an invalid array, so we'll be returning the -1, and we are creating a hash map. So this will be n for array element, and this will be n for occurrence. This will be a key value. And in the first iteration, we are doing, or we are preparing the map. So we can see here if the map contains any value, and then we are fetching the whatever the value which is already there, and then we are incrementing 1, meaning if suppose there is an occurrence which is found, then we are fetching the whatever the latest occurrence. Let's say if it is 1, we need to add it one more occurrence, because it's already seen this value, and then we'll make it as 2. That's what we are doing it, because the value which is already key is already created. If not, this is an first visit. That's the reason we'll create a new key, and then the occurrence will be in 1 because this is the first occurrence. In next occurrences, the value will be fetched and then it will be incremented with a 1. So once we do it for the first iteration, once we're done with this, in the second iteration, what we are doing is we are doing from 0th index to last index, and we are getting the value from the map, and we call it as a occurrences. If the occurrences is equals to 1, meaning if it is a unique value or unique element, then soon as that we are returning the value and we are skipping this loop. If we didn't find any unique value, then obviously we need to return by -1. So meaning didn't find any unique element within the array. Thanks for watching. Hit like, share, subscribe. Thanks for watching.